Hey, Astro Kids, and welcome back. Today we're talking about the transit of Mars in Taurus, which will take place from February 21st through April 13th. So, what is this transit of Mars in Taurus all about? Well, first we have to understand the significance of Mars and Taurus and put these two energies together. And so, this is an interesting combination, which I call the unstoppable force. When Mars is coming into the sign of Taurus, this gives a tremendous amount of persistence and determination. However, this is also slow. And so this is a slow, unstoppable force, as Taurus gives that very slow and graceful movement, step by step, methodical. And to understand this, we really have to get into what is Mars all about. So, as many of you know, Mars is the military general in the planetary cabinet. Mars is all about our aggression, our willpower, our determination. It is the will to get things done. And so Mars is here to take action, to take the initiative. And so these qualities are coming through in Mars. Now, what happens when we put that in the sign of Taurus? Well, Mars has a neutral relationship with Venus. Why is this important? Because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. And so now, as Mars comes into the sign of Taurus, there is a neutral effect that is happening here. And what this means is that Mars is not debilitated, it is not damaged, it's not in an enemy sign. However, it's not functioning at its highest capacity. And so the speed, the aggression is not fully there. We're slowing this energy down, making it more peaceful, more grounded, more stable. And so immediately this makes me think of the tortoise from the tortoise and the hare. There is a tremendous amount of determination and willpower that is in this combination. However, it's very slow, right? This is not a straightforward, aggressive type of combination. Now let's take a deeper look at the sign of Taurus to get a better understanding of this functioning. And so many of you are probably familiar with my interpretation of the sign in Taurus. If you have checked out that Sun in Taurus in Vedic Astrology video. If not, there is a link above so that you can look into that and get more insight. But we're just looking at the sign of Taurus alone at this moment to get an idea of how this is functioning when we are placing Mars here in Taurus. And so Taurus is a fixed sign. Fixed meaning it doesn't change. It stays as it is. And so there is a stubbornness, there is a persistence, a stability to this sign. This is also an earth sign. And so out of all of the fixed signs, this is by far one of the most fixed, as earth is representing the things that are stable, that are practical, security, wealth, the material world. And so this is not only fixed, but it is also an earth sign, making it one of the most stable in the entire zodiac. And this is why the moon is exalted in Taurus. The moon is the mother, the nurturer. This is where we get comfort from. And so the moon feels the most grounded, the most stable in Taurus because it is the most stable. Now, Taurus is also ruled by Venus. Venus being the planet of love, beauty, luxury, pleasure, sexuality, attraction, art, music, peace, justice. And so all of these qualities are coming into Taurus. This is a very materialistic sign. This is a sign about family, tradition, security, wealth, possessions. Taurus is here to create stability and security. And so wherever Taurus is in your chart, that becomes the most stable position in your entire chart. It is all about farming that solid ground. And so this is why when Mars comes into Taurus, there is a determination, a persistence. Taurus is a sign that doesn't back down. It is here to build that security, and it will do whatever it takes to get that security. And so Taurus is stubborn in this way, where it is willing to do whatever it takes to build the security, to build the protection, to build the safety, to build the comfort, the luxury, the family environment. So this becomes a very rock solid sign, stable, down to earth, practical, focused, persistent. And so when Mars comes into Taurus, there is a tremendous amount of drive and persistence. This is a person who doesn't give up, no matter how long this process takes. And of course, when Mars is in Taurus, this creates a slow movement, slow action. However, this person still is focused on getting to the finish line and will not stop until they get there. And so this is the energy that we're getting with Mars in Taurus. And now this is coming in a transit. So this is affecting all of us collectively. So let's go ahead and take a look at this transit of Mars in Taurus. And so on the screen, I have pulled up the chart as far as what it looks like when Mars officially enters into the sign of Taurus here on February 21st of 2021. And if you know anything about a bull in a bull race, then you know what this energy is like moving forward. And so the first thing that I can say about this transit is don't give up. Don't lose hope, because no matter how slow you're moving, no matter how slow the pieces are being put together, the stubborn bull will not give up. And so this is a fight, a battle that requires patience. For those of you who are in a rush to try to get things done, for those of you who are trying to use force to push down walls, this is a slow moving progress. You must have patience. You must have dedication to really get to the results that you want. And this is really going to vary when we get into each of the signs and how this is affecting you in your chart. But this is really a time of this slow building progress, this slow forward movement. And so you really want to be patient at this time. You really want to be committed and persistent at this time, not giving up, not losing hope when you're not seeing the results as soon as you would like them. That is the first thing I can definitely say about this transit. Now, as you can see, when we first enter into this transit of Mars in Taurus, Mars is not being aspected. It is just entering into this position of Taurus, and it is entering in on a Kritika Nakshatra. So we will get to that in a moment when we get into the different nakshatras that Mars will transit through. But this is picking up on where it left off in the sign of Aries, and the only sign that is present here in Taurus is Rahu. So with Rahu being the only planet other than Mars sitting here in Taurus and no aspects, this is going to be an unafflicted transit to start off. Now, this is going to change as we get through March and April. We're going to see some different aspects and different conjunctions that are going to play a role into all of this. But to start off this transit, you are just getting the raw Mars and Taurus energy, which is all about persistence, determination. And Mars is here to test you to see, are you willing to be patient? Are you willing to put in the time and the effort? Are you willing to stay committed and consistent in what you are doing? Depending on where you have Taurus in your particular chart, this is really going to play out in your life, where you're going to have to be patient and you're going to have to put that discipline, that time, that commitment, that effort into getting what you want. Because the shadow side of this placement of Mars in Taurus is that it can become very lazy. It can become very dependent and very much stubborn, right? There is a certain point where Taurus does not want to move, doesn't want to change, doesn't want to do much of anything. This heavy influence of Venus does make Taurus a very luxurious sign that wants to relax and be in the comfort and security of having this beautiful, stable, wealthy life. And so that influence is still there on the shadow side where are you going to give up? Are you going to be lazy? Are you going to falter when you're not seeing the results coming through? So, huge lesson with this transit of Mars and Taurus is all about your patience and commitment. How much are you willing to put into this? Because when Taurus puts all the energy in, it gets the results eventually. If it puts nothing in, then nothing will happen. And so you really want to be cautious of which side of this Taurus energy are you leaning into. Are you leaning into the side of Taurus that is consistent, committed, that is willing to do what it takes to build the foundation, the security? And for many of you, this becomes especially a great time for wealth and security as Taurus is connected to our money. So depending on where this is positioned in your chart, this could be a really good time to persist in your business. This could be a time to see some slow results in your wealth increase. And so you really want to pay attention to, are you slacking off? Are you not putting the work and the effort in? Because that is that shadow side of Taurus where you're not tapping into all of the great positive qualities that Taurus is here to bring as far as persistence and determination and remaining loyal and devoted to the mission, right? The sign of Taurus is by far one of the most loyal signs, but this is a test of, are you going to stay devoted and disciplined to the task at hand? Mars is that military general where it is about discipline, it's about commitment, to be a soldier, to fight for a mission, to go out and to conquer. There's a discipline to it. But there's also a side where the young soldier is reckless, gets into danger, gets distracted from the task at hand. And so this becomes a real challenge and lesson through this Mars and Taurus transit is, are you going to be committed and devoted to the task at hand, to what you want to accomplish and achieve at this time? Are you willing to put all of your strength and effort into making this happen? Because Mars and Taurus will give you the results. Again, Mars and Taurus is a neutral position. This is not debilitated. This is not an enemy sign. It is not in its full capacity where it would like to be in the sign of Scorpio or Aries. However, it is still in a great placement in Taurus, where this gives you just as much as you put in. And so, huge test here as far as your willpower, your determination, your efforts. How willing are you to stay committed and focused on the task at hand? And again, if you are familiar with a bull and a bull race, then you know how this energy goes if you are tapping into this correctly. A bull has that tunnel vision. Are you willing to have that tunnel vision when it comes to your goals, your responsibility, your task in life? Are you going to reap the results, the achievements, the abundance? That all comes down to, are you willing to stay focused and committed to the task? Or are you slacking off? Are you staying stuck in the past? Are you staying stuck in your old ways? This stubbornness, this laziness, this inability to move ahead, to move forward is the piece of this that is stopping you from your achievements. This is really the gist of this transit of Mars and Taurus. And ultimately, collectively, we can see some great strides that can take place, but very slowly, that require the consistency, the discipline, right? This is how Mars and Taurus rewards you, is if you put in the time and the effort. If you're willing to stay committed, because this energy of Taurus is all about commitment. But what are you willing to commit to? Are you committing to the wrong things? Are you committing to the foods and the objects and the items in life that you know are not beneficial to you? Or are you willing to commit to the right things? This is the test of this transit. So let's go ahead and take a look at the aspects and conjunctions and the different nakshatras that this Mars in Taurus transit will affect us with. So up on the screen now, I have a list of transits that are going to be related to this Mars in Taurus transit. And so now we're going to take a look at the aspects and conjunctions of this transit. And to start off here on the 26th of February, we do have an aspect between Mars and the moon in Leo. And so it is making its fourth aspect over to the moon. And this is something that we will see happen for a second time as well as we come to the end of this transit in April. As Mars is making an aspect over to the moon in Leo, this really heightens our emotions. Remember that Mars and the moon are directly connected to our emotions. Mars more so with the hotter emotions of anger, aggression, determination, willpower, and the moon more so about sensitivity, receptiveness, intuition. And so as the moon is making an aspect over to Mars, this really heightens our senses and gives us very intense feelings and emotions at this time. And so this is really a time where you want to be cautious of making any sort of reckless actions. Remember that this is Mars in Taurus, which is very much in its neutral position, right? It's not in its strongest position. And so Mars is still in a place where how are you going to use this Martian energy? Right? This is neutral where this could go either way. And this is aspecting a moon in Leo, where Leo is all about royalty, right? Leo is the king. And on the negative spin, it is about ego. And so there is something huge here where if you're using this Mars energy incorrectly, this can really give us a strong ego, right? This can make us very puffy, very egotistical, very reactive. And there's a sense of entitlement to this transit here. And so this is one of those transits where you want to be careful of how you're reacting and responding to the things going on in your environment, especially depending on where Mars is positioned in your chart. If this is happening in a place that deals specifically with people, whether this is happening in your third house of siblings, in your seventh house of your spouse, in your 11th house of large social groups, all of these things you want to be cautious of. This is really a time where the ego can blow out of proportion and you can be very sensitive, very reactive to certain people in your environment when really this is coming from a place of ego. And so you want to make sure that you're checking how you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and handling these situations in a proper way instead of reacting negatively. Remember that Mars, when it is functioning properly, has discipline. It has confidence. It's able to deal with difficult situations. But when Mars is in a difficult position, this can really bring aggression, right? Anger, frustration. And so this is really a situation where you want to be careful of how you are reacting and responding to your environment. Now on March 6th, Mars will make its eighth aspect over to the moon in Sagittarius. And so this is going to be another one where we're dealing with the energy of the moon. And as the moon comes into Sagittarius, this is a very different energy, right? Sagittarius is more about morals, ethics, principles. Now, the difficulty with this placement is that when Sagittarius is not functioning properly, this higher knowledge, this wisdom, this philosophy, these moral principles can make Sagittarius a bit of a snob, right? This can give, again, ego problems, but in the sense that Sagittarius thinks they know everything. And so this can create situations where there are lots of arguments and disagreements that are really coming from a place of ego, a place of arrogance, right? A place of thinking that you know everything and that you have all of the answers. And this is especially true because Mars will be in Taurus. Taurus is about our values, right? Taurus is that original second house, which is connected to our possessions, our family, our values, our traditions. And so with Mars making this aspect over to the moon in Sagittarius, this becomes a very interesting transit because this can really give a person a stubbornness in their belief systems, right? If someone challenges your beliefs, if someone challenges your ideas, this can really give you an arrogance, an egotism, where you are reacting to these things as if you know everything, and you may not. And so again, this is another situation where you might need to step back and think about why you feel the way you do, and why these issues are coming up, and how to face these conflicts in a way that is not blown out of proportion, in a way where you're not reacting in such a overblown and aggressive way. So really our emotions are being strongly affected by a lot of these transits. Now on March 10th, Mars will come into a conjunction with Rahu. And so this is an interesting association because Rahu is really a friend to the planet Saturn, right? Rahu is the ruler of Aquarius. And so Rahu is not quite a friend to Mars. And so this becomes a very interesting combination as Rahu is very much connected to karma. It is connected to our desires, facing the shadow aspects of life. And Mars really doesn't want to deal with this. Mars wants to be straightforward, aggressive. It wants to go after the things that it wants. And so in this combination, Rahu is the one that feels most comfortable in Taurus. Mars is very agitated in this conjunction. And this is a conjunction that will last pretty much until the end of this Mars and Taurus transit. And so this is one where you really need to, again, have that patience, because this is one where greed, where ambition, where your desires can blindsight you. This is an issue where the ego can really take over, and this can become a situation where you are all about getting what you want and getting it when you want it. For some of you, this means taking shortcuts. For some of you, it means doing things that are unethical, right? And so this is a situation where when Mars comes into this conjunction with Rahu, remember to have that consistency, to have that determination, to have that patience, to do things in the right way, step by step, using that Taurus energy to slowly move towards your goals versus trying to take shortcuts and doing things in the wrong manner. Because Rahu can definitely bring this out. And Rahu is already in Taurus, where there's strong desires towards wealth, towards security, collectively. And so when Mars comes here, this really blows this up, where this can, again, create a situation where you are cutting around the morals, the principles, the laws, the ethics, and doing things in the wrong way. And so you want to be very patient at this time and not allow your aggression, your anger, your frustration to lead you towards the wrong decisions. Now, on March 18th, the moon is also coming into an association with Mars and Rahu. And so now, not only is it Mars and Rahu, but the moon is here as well. And again, the moon feels very comfortable here along with Rahu. It is Mars that feels agitated, and Mars is caught in the middle of the moon and Rahu. And so this especially becomes a frustration for a lot of people as this transit takes place. This really brings out those deeper, darker desires, those frustration, that ability to take shortcuts, that ability to do things in the wrong way, where Mars and the moon are really bringing out these deep conflicts and frustrations and emotions that need to be faced and addressed. And so during this point, if you're seeing yourself repeating old patterns and behaviors that are not morally correct, that are taking shortcuts, doing things in the wrong way, avoiding the law, this is really a time where you want to look at that and to make the necessary changes to get away from that, right? And this especially becomes true if you are going through a Rahu Mahadasha or a Rahu Antidarsha, where you're going through this period where Rahu is affecting you. And so depending on how you have Taurus position in your chart, this can bring up some very big conflicts within your life where you must strive to do what is right. Taurus is there to teach you the patience, the consistency, the determination, right? The dedication to put the time in and to see those results build slowly, as Taurus is a friend to Saturn, and so is Rahu. So this is really a time where you must be cautious because Mars is on edge, right? Everything is happy between Saturn, between Taurus, between Venus, and Mars feels like the odd one out. He feels like he can't get anything done at his pace. He feels like the speed, the intensity, the focus, the determination is gone. And so this really brings up some deep internal conflicts and feelings that need to be addressed and worked through versus making impulsive, reckless, wrong decisions. Now, on March 26th, Mars is going to make its second aspect to Leo. And we're also going to see Mars being aspected by Jupiter, because now Jupiter is coming to those last degrees of Capricorn, and so is Mars coming to the last degrees of Taurus. And so now we're getting this full aspect of Jupiter over to Mars. And so now this is a time where Jupiter can step in and give us more of those moral principles, more of this good nature to take us towards our goals and achievements in the right way. But remember that Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn. And so this is where this also becomes a challenge of being hopeful, having the optimism, having the confidence to go after your goals. This can be strongly diminished by Jupiter being in its debilitation. And we've experienced this for a long time. But in this transit, this becomes even more prevalent as it is being added to this Mars and Taurus that is frustrated. It wants to quickly act. It wants what it wants. And Taurus is really slowing this down, teaching us the patience, teaching us the dedication, the commitment. And so this really becomes a time of a lot of internal frustration and conflicts if you're really trying to push to get things done at a quicker rate. And so this is a time where, for many of you, it is great to meditate. It is great to tap inward and to look within and to really find out where those difficulties and frustrations lie and to work through that, to build the patience, to build the peace and calm within. This is really going to help you during this period because Mars is really going to be frustrated as it is in this conjunction with Rahu, and it's getting this aspect from Jupiter in its debilitation, and the moon is involved. There's so many factors here where Mars feels all of these intense emotions and frustrations that need to be faced and worked through. Now, on the 12th, Mars is going to make its 8th aspect over to the moon in Sagittarius once again. So again, these beliefs, these ideas can be triggered during this time. So you want to be cautious of, are you on your high horse? Are you being overly self-righteous? Are you trying to force your opinions and ideas upon others? Are you too stubborn to listen to your guides, to your teachers, to those who are here to give you wisdom and understanding? This really comes up during this Mars and Taurus transit. And then on the 13th, Mars is going to end out its transit and shift over into the sign of Gemini. So let's go ahead and take a look at those nakshatras that Mars in Taurus will shift through during this period. So starting off this transit of Mars in Taurus, this will take place in the Kritika nakshatra. Now, previously, as Mars was in Aries, it was also in this nakshatra. This nakshatra of Kritika is all about critiquing. This is represented by the blade, cutting through things, getting to the root, finding the solution. And so this becomes all about criticizing, about finding the faults in problems, getting to the solution, getting to the root of the problem, facing the problem head on. And so this gives this cutting, this precision, this calculative nature of being able to analyze and break things down and really get right to the root of the issue. Now, this is going to be Mars in Taurus transiting into the second pada. So originally Mars in Aries was happening in that first pada, which falls in the Sagittarius Navamsa. It is a Jupiter-ruled pada, which was all about the moralistic path, the generous path, right? And it's very much connected to the military pursuits in life, using your willpower, your strength, your stamina to do right, to take the righteous path. But as this shifts into the second pada, this is now in a Capricorn Navamsa. And so this is a Saturn-ruled pada. And remember that Saturn is all about discipline, structure, karma, justice, right? This is a very slow-paced, analytical type of planet. And so as it comes into this Capricorn Navamsa, this becomes more about harmonizing because Saturn is connected to justice. And so this is very different as it's coming into this pada of Capricorn. And this really becomes about morals. It becomes about ethics and principles, where this is really about, again, this vision that is more practical than it is spiritual. In that first pada, it was about this higher vision of doing what's right. Now this comes down to earth, where it becomes more about the practical issues. It becomes more about the justice, the law, the functioning of society. And so as we are in this second pada of Mars in Taurus, this really becomes about, again, looking at the moral and ethical principles in your life. And we talked a little bit about this with the transits that are coming, because all of this is highlighting what lessons we need to look at in our lives, which really are centered around doing what is right, especially as we're coming into this transit. Remember that there is a part of Taurus that is a bit more lazy, relaxed, that is about stubbornness and staying in what is comfortable. But do you have the strength, the persistence, the commitment to do what's right, to stick to your path, to follow the laws and to do things in the just way? And this really becomes a huge test here, as this second pada within the Capricorn Navamsa is really bringing up those issues within you. It is bringing to the surface what are the things in your life that are not disciplined, that are not in harmony, the things that need to be focused and worked on. What are your material responsibilities in life? All of this comes to the surface. So remember that this nakshatra is a blade. It cuts through the nonsense. It shows you where the issues and flaws are. It shows you what needs to be worked on and addressed. And so this becomes a huge factor as we're entering into Mars in Taurus moving forward here. Now, as it shifts into the third pada, we are shifting into the Aquarius Navamsa, where this becomes about your mission in life. And so after forming the discipline, after tending to your routines, making sure that everything is in order, that you're doing right, this also becomes a part of your responsibility in the collective, your responsibility as a whole. Are you working towards your future? Are you helping others? Are you maintaining the vision of your life, sticking to your duty? This becomes a huge factor as we're shifting into the Aquarius Navamsa. And so this is very intense as we are entering into this Mars and Taurus transit in this Kritika Nakshatra, as this becomes a very disciplined Nakshatra about cutting through the surface level nonsense, cutting through the distractions, cutting through the mistakes and the laziness, right? Cutting through the areas of our life that don't have the correct structure and discipline. This really becomes about needing to maintain your routine, needing to follow your duty and responsibility in life. Remember that Taurus is connected to our finances. It is connected to tradition, for doing right by your family, for holding that solid foundation, maintaining your wealth, your values. This consistency becomes a huge part of what we are entering into here as we are shifting ahead into this Mars and Taurus transit. And as we come to the end of this Nakshatra of Kritika, the last part of this falls in the Pisces Navamsa. So this becomes another Jupiter ruled part of this Nakshatra, similar to the first one, where now this becomes more about the benevolent way of doing things, helping others, being a part of the group, showing compassion. This also can become a great area for you to dabble into your creative side, working on your projects. And remember that Taurus is connected to money. And so, depending on how this is positioned in your chart and how this is affecting the planets in your chart, this can really give you an opportunity to work on a new project, to work on a new creative endeavor that can provide you with wealth and security. And so, again, this element of commitment really becomes a huge part of all of this. Staying committed to the task, to your purpose, to what you want to achieve in life, to your duties and responsibilities, and straying away from the distractions, leaving all of the distractions and the nonsense and all of the procrastination and everything that is keeping you from achieving success out of the equation. And so for many of you, this is time to develop a routine, to face those subconscious blocks that are keeping you from doing what is necessary, doing what is needed. This becomes a huge part of the beginning of this transit of Mars in Taurus. Now, the last Nakshatra was a bit more masculine, a bit more aggressive, as it was controlled by the sun. This next Nakshatra that Mars will transit through in Taurus is Rohini, which is more feminine. It is controlled by the moon. And so now this is being affected by the mind. And so creativity becomes a huge part of this Nakshatra. But also, the moon is connected to our nourishment, our comfort. And so money and finance also becomes a huge part of this Nakshatra as well. And as we are shifting into this Nakshatra of Rohini, which is symbolized by a chariot, this is all about moving towards our goals in life. This creative energy of getting things done, of creating what you want in your life. becomes a huge theme here. And so again, we are still here in this theme of responsibility, of commitment, of getting tasks done, of building up your wealth and assets, of building that solid foundation in life. This becomes huge focus here in the sign of Taurus, and especially with the planet Mars here, where Mars is our aggression, our determination, our willpower. This is giving you a tremendous amount of strength to get the things done that need to be accomplished in your life. And starting off in this first pada of the Rohini Nakshatra, we are in an Aries Navamsa. This is controlled by Mars, where there is a fiery passion to get the material results, to get the success, to get the wealth, the security in life. And so, especially in this first pada, you want to take advantage of this strength, this willpower, this determination, because not only is this Mars now, but this is Mars within a Mars Navamsa. This is going to give a tremendous amount of strength to those who are willing to use it. Now, also, as we're pushing ahead into the second pada of this Rohini Nakshatra, now we are coming into the Taurus Navamsa. And so this is a Venus-controlled Navamsa. Now, this is going to give us Vragadama results, as this is in the sign of Taurus in the Taurus Navamsa. And so this really becomes a very strong pada, which is all about the fulfillment of your desires. This is about using that creativity, using that communication skill, using all of the skills and qualities that you have to get the most successful results. And so again, using this Mars in Taurus wisely, using the part of Taurus that is consistent, devoted, dedicated to get towards your goals and achievements is highly recommended. Not so much leaning towards this luxurious and laid back side of Taurus. Because for many of you, staying in this place of nothingness is not going to get you any results. Remember that Taurus is all about what are you committed to? What do you value? What are you willing to strive towards? To put the time, the patience, the effort into at this time. This becomes huge as we are shifting ahead. And so you really want to use your desires, your determination to really shift towards what you want to achieve, especially with Rahu in the equation. As Mars comes into a conjunction with Rahu, this is really going to help to increase the things that we desire in our lives. Now, another thing to mention about Rahu is that you may receive some results that you don't like from Rahu as well. So depending on where your thought process is, so make sure you're paying attention to where is Mars in Taurus positioned from your moon, because this is really going to tell us about where your thoughts and feelings are. Because if you are thinking that you are going to get everything that you want out of the material world, Rahu may give you some results that don't satisfy you in the end. It will give you the results that you want, but you find that they're not really as satisfying as you thought they would be. And especially if you are being highly affected by Rahu in some way at this time. If you are going through your Rahu Mahadasha, if you are going through your Rahu Antardarsha, if you are going through a very strong transit of Rahu, this can really strongly affect you as far as your material desires. Now, as we come into the third pada, this is going to fall in the Gemini Navamsa. And so this is going to be ruled by Mercury, which gives more flexibility. This gives more ability to tap into your different skills and talents at this time. And so again, using this energy to be more creative, more expressive when you're here in the sign of Rohini really becomes a strong suit, especially in that previous pada of Venus. And now in this Mercury pada, this gives you more flexibility, more creativity to tap into your different skills and talents. And so this is really great position for you to achieve your material wealth and security. Really tapping into your strengths, your creativity at this time, and making sure that you are taking the correct path. This Mercury influence can lead you to want to take shortcuts as well, as Mercury is the trickster. And so this can negatively affect you if you are trying to do things in an unethical way. Because remember that Mars will be with Rahu and it will receive aspects from Jupiter. This is a huge karmic test as we are going through this Mars in Taurus transit. Now, the last Navamsa of Rohini is falling in the Cancer Navamsa. And so this is ruled by the moon. And so here we are getting a double moon energy. And so you may want to travel during this time. You may have different changing ideas and thoughts and opinions at this time. This is another point where you want to pay attention to your emotions, your thoughts. Because again, remember those aspects of the moon to Leo, to the moon in Sagittarius, to the moon being present with Mars and Rahu. All of those transits bringing out very strong emotions and reactions that need to be faced and addressed during this Mars and Taurus transit. There's a lot here that's coming to the surface, especially as Rahu is involved, really activating those shadow aspects of life. What are the feelings, the desires, the frustrations that need to be faced and conquered during this Mars and Taurus transit? And the last nakshatra here in Taurus, which will take us into Gemini as we shift ahead into our next transit, is Mrinshira, which is all about searching. This is symbolized by the deer in the forest. This searching in an isolated place. And so here as Mars enters into Taurus, this becomes about your goals, your ambitions. This continues to be about your finances, your security. But now this becomes extremely disciplined where this is about focusing on this individually, not allowing anything around you to distract you, right? This becomes very isolated. And so through this nakshatra, you may find that you want to be more individualistic, that you want to be more detached and to have that space to really dig into information and to work on the task at hand all by yourself. And so this is a period where you want to be cautious of disconnecting too much during this point and getting lost into this world of business, of work, where there is no time for anything else in your life. This really can happen here in this nakshatra. However, you also want to make sure that you're keeping true to the themes of this nakshatra of keeping yourself disciplined and focused, of going after what you want. This is a Mars-ruled nakshatra. That intensity, that focus, that drive, that determination, that willpower that we talked about of Mars being here in the sign of Taurus in this Mars nakshatra is a great opportunity for you to go after your goals, for you to take the initiative and to act on where you want to see this success happen in your life. And so again, using that Rohini nakshatra, using that Kritika nakshatra, and now using this Mrinshira nakshatra to really go ahead towards your goals, your dreams, your ambitions to create wealth and security. This becomes a great opportunity here as Mars is transiting through the sign of Taurus. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what this will look like depending on your chart. And remember that this is a general read, so this is depending on the houses in your chart, but the planets can also play a role in this as well. And so you want to make sure that certain planets aren't afflicting these houses, that certain planets aren't giving different results to these houses. All of these things can play out. And if you are curious about how all of this is affecting you and you're not sure how to understand your chart, feel free to contact me for a reading to go in and interpret your chart as a whole. If you want to learn this for yourself, there is a class available in the Facebook group, Astrology Lessons with Daquan Jones, and on the Patreon page as well. I will update you when this becomes available on Udemy, and all of that is down below in the description along with the comments. But this is really a part where this becomes a general reading because I don't know where all of your planets are positioned in every one of your charts. Now, in this interpretation, you want to either look at your ascendant or your moon when you're looking at the chart. The moon is going to give you an idea about how this is affecting you internally in your mind. How do you think and feel? What are the behaviors and patterns that are coming through this? All the cycles that you will go through during this transit. And the ascendant will show you how this will actually play out in your external reality, in your physical life. So for many of you, you want to look at both your moon and your ascendant to get an idea of how this will affect you. But I do recommend that you are either looking at your moon or your ascendant. Remember that sun is who you aspire to be. So this is not so much about your sun sign as we're going through this. Hi, Aries, and I hope you all are having a great day. This is your Mars and Taurus horoscope. And so Mars will be shifting from your first house into your second house. And so now the focus comes off of yourself and becomes more about your possessions, your family, your values, the things closest to you. And so especially for those of you with Aries ascendant or Aries moon, this really becomes a time of focusing on your finances, focusing on your growth overall. And this is especially true because Rahu has been sitting here in your second house, where there is this insatiable hunger, this desire to build wealth and security. And of course, along with that, there is this growth, this transformation that is happening internally as K2 is sitting in Scorpio back in your 8th house. That original house of Scorpio, very deep, intense transformations that are taking you through this process. And so as you are continuing to transform and grow in who you are internally, this is also helping you to secure your wealth in life. And with Mars coming in here to join with Rahu, this is becoming a great time for you to really tap into this. And especially as Mars will be aspecting the moon in Leo and the moon in Sagittarius, which are both houses of good fortune for you as they are there in their original houses. And so you will see many opportunities here to build your wealth, to build your security over time as you're going through this transit here of Mars in Taurus. Now remember that Taurus is a very slow-moving, graceful sign ruled by Venus, connected to that second house of the mouth, of the speech, of the values, the family, the security. And so are you getting too comfortable during this transit and not actually moving towards your goals? This becomes a huge thing to focus on for those of you with Aries ascendant, especially because you're used to this Martian influence that is there in your first house of taking action, and it is shifted over to your second house, which really deals with your sense of comfort, your home, your family, your roots. And so this really becomes a time where you can see some slacking off that could happen during this period. Now, this also becomes a really great time because from there, Mars is aspecting over to your 9th house. And so this is a huge time here of really growing in terms of your education. Some of you going back to school, some of you pursuing higher levels of education, some of you teaching or getting involved in new projects in your life that can really help you achieve a lot of wealth. And especially as Mars is also making that aspect over to your 5th house, where there is a huge focus on education in general, where many of you may be very curious, where you may be more creatively inclined, especially with Mars going on in Taurus, which is a very creative sign, especially as we come into that nakshatra of Rohini, where the moon's influence takes over. And this becomes very artistic, very creative. If you have a talent, if you have a project that you've been working on, a story, if you are working on music, if you want to get into acting, all of these things become more heavily focused on during this transit and gives you great success. And so this is really a time of moving towards your higher goals, moving towards what you want to see in your life. Now let's go ahead and move on to those of you with Mars in Taurus in your first house. So welcome to those of you who are a Taurus ascendant or Taurus moon. This is for you. And so this is a time where you are already having Rahu in your first house, where you're dealing with these material desires, where you're dealing with the material world at large that we call the Maya or the illusion. And that is really what Rahu is here to do for you, is to show you that a lot of the things that you desire and want are not necessarily there to satisfy you, are not necessarily everything that you've hoped for. And this is really forcing you to go inward and to go through this spiritual journey. And especially in terms of your relationships, this really is showing you that maybe everything in the material world is not there for happiness. Maybe you are meant to find true happiness through your connections, your relationships. And so this becomes a huge theme for you with Ketu in your seventh house and Rahu in your first house, where there is a heavy focus on relationships between you and other people and how this all plays out karmically. Where are you getting your true nourishment and satisfaction from in life? Now, Mars is joining the party in your first house. And so now there's a heavy focus on the self. And this is where you want to be very cautious of being overly confident, overly arrogant during this time, as Mars in the first can really inflame the ego. This can bring a lot of overconfidence and reckless decisions and choices into your life as a whole. And so you want to be cautious of this Martian energy. At the same time as Mars is entered into your first house, this gives you the drive, the confidence, the determination to get the things done that you want to achieve in your life. And this is Mars aspecting your fourth house. And so you are gaining more confidence, more self-assurance. That fourth house is connected to the mind, the inner peace, the state of mind, right? That fourth house is the home, but the home as where the heart is. And this becomes a place of inner peace. And so for many of you who have been afraid, who have not been as confident, who have not felt that drive, that energy, that capacity, this is now activating you in a way that it has not before. And many of you have felt this as Mars has been in Aries. Back in that 12th house, there's been something stirring within the subconscious here. And now you're finally getting that energy, that drive to push ahead, to move ahead towards your goals. Mars is also aspecting your eighth house. And so again, this becomes a time where you can gain a lot of wealth and security. That eighth house is connected to resources through other people. And so this can be a time where you can gain a lot as far as comfort, security, wealth, accomplishments. All of this can come through. Now, for many of you, you are also having to go through a transformation process to receive this wealth and security. Remember that that eighth house is the house of crisis, of death and rebirth. And so this is forcing you to make changes in your life that many of you may not enjoy, as Taurus is this fixed sign. But this is time to make changes to move towards the things that you want in your life. Hi, Gemini, and welcome to your Mars in Taurus horoscope. This is for those of you with a Gemini ascendant or Gemini moon. Now, you are having Mars enter into your 12th house. This is an interesting position, and this is not necessarily a positive position for you. This is a time where you want to watch out for your health. This is Mars aspecting from your 12th house of hidden illnesses to your 6th house of physical illnesses, where this is a time where you want to make sure that both your mental health and your physical well-being are all in check during this time. This is a huge time to really focus on your health, your well-being, making sure that you're not overly exhausting yourself, that you are not facing a lot of stress and frustration. This can bring about anxiety, depression, all of these things happening here as Mars is sitting back in that 12th house. Mars is also aspecting over to your 7th house of partnership. And so how are things looking in your relationships? Making sure that any sort of conflicts or problems that are coming up are faced and addressed. There can be some potential separation that can happen. Mars is looking at that 6th house of conflicts and that 7th house of relationships. And so any sort of problems should not be brushed under the rug at this time. All of it should be addressed right now, because this can potentially lead to a separation down the road. Remember that Mars in Taurus is a very slow-moving sign, but it still gets the job done. And so you really want to use this time that you have to make sure that everything is in proper alignment, that everything is intact. Now, Mars is also aspecting over to your 3rd house of communication. So again, you want to use your social skills right now to work everything out. If there's any sort of conflicts in legal agreements, in your business matters, in your relationships, working all of this out right now as you can see conflicts down the road. So let's go ahead and push ahead to those of you with Cancer. So this is for those who have a Cancer ascendant or Cancer moon. So this is Mars back in your 11th house. And so this is really a time of thinking of networking, thinking of your goals, your hopes, your dreams, and really pushing towards that. Remember that this Taurus energy is favorable to the sign of Cancer, right? Your planet of the moon is exalted in Taurus. And so a lot of favorable results that can come from this transit when you're working towards your goals, your dreams, putting your efforts into what you want to accomplish. That 11th house is the house of gains and support. So you can receive a lot of benefits during this time. Mars is looking over at your 5th house, which is that house of your intellect, your creativity. It's even the house of children and your good prospects. So this is a time to be creative, to express yourself, to put your efforts into what you want to achieve at this time. You can see a lot of good results from this. Now, Mars is also looking at your 6th house. And so this is also a time to deal with any sort of conflicts, to resolve any of the conflicts that may come up at this time, particularly any conflicts that may arise with your children. And so this could be a time where you could see some disagreements, some distance that can happen with your relationship to your children. So you want to really look at all of these different conflicts that can potentially come up. Some of you dealing with foreign efforts, dealing with your work life, dealing with your hopes and dreams, and seeing some difficulties within your close relationships as a result. Mars is also looking at your 2nd house. And so this is really a great time to bring in wealth and security as well. Let's go ahead and move forward to the sign of Leo. So this is for those of you who have a Leo ascendant or Leo moon. This is Mars sitting in your 10th house of career, status. And this has been a huge theme as Rahu has been transiting your 10th house for some time now, where this has been a time of this desire to level up, to get to the highest position, to succeed. Now remember that Rahu is an illusionary planet. And so for some of you, you may have found some dissatisfaction with this desire to level up, where you got there, you received it, but it wasn't as satisfying as you thought it would be. Mars coming into this 10th house also adds to this strength, this willpower, this determination to level up, to get to your achievements, your goals. And this is aspecting from your 4th house, where we see K2, where there can be a lot of disturbances and conflicts and anxiety and stress happening within the home, because now the focus is out of the home, right? Rahu and Mars are in that 10th house. And so you may see some conflicts arise within your home life, within your peaceful sanctuary, where you are neglecting some things within your home, focusing too heavily on career. And so this is really a time where you want to pay attention to anything that needs to be dealt with within your home life, particularly because Mars is also looking at your 5th house of children. And so for those of you who are putting too much effort and time into your work and not enough connection into your children, this can really show up during this Mars transit as well. But this is Mars looking at that 5th house of creativity, of intellect, where this gives you the tools, the skills to tap into your creativity. For those of you who are into music, into acting, into your writing, for those of you who have projects that you have not completed, this is a great time to put the effort into that, to focus on really getting these things done, achieving this, being successful. This is Mars also looking at your 1st house, where this is a great time for you to be more confident, more assertive, to go for the things that you want in life. Let's go ahead and move forward to those of you with a Virgo ascendant or moon. So this is your horoscope of Mars in Taurus. And Mars is sitting in your 9th house, where this is a time to focus on education. For some of you, you are working on projects, you are thinking about traveling, you're thinking about your future. All of these things are coming into play. And so this is a great time to go back to school if you have left. This is a great time to focus on any projects that you have not finished. This is a great time to get your degree, all of these things, where this is a great time to really level up in your education. Now, from the 9th house, Mars is looking at your 3rd house as well, that 3rd house of communication. And so this is a great time, again, to use your communication skills, to use your intellectual skills, to focus on that education, to focus on your goals. That 3rd house is also the house of courage. And so for some of you, you have been waiting too long to go after a project, to go after a dream. And this is time to take the initiative to get that done. This can also be a time of public speaking, of writing, anything along those lines, as we're dealing with the 9th house of higher education and the 3rd house of communication. This is Mars also looking at your 4th house. And so this is a time where you may want to retreat to your home, where you may want to go into a peaceful place. This can be a great time to study in private if you have the quiet place to do this. This could also be a time where you can see some difficulties or conflicts within the home if you are focusing heavily on your studies, on your education, on your higher goals and dreams. This can really take the focus away from the home. And from there, this is also Mars aspecting your 12th house, where this can be a time of using your imagination, using your creativity, right? Tapping into your dreams and pouring that into your creativity, into your projects. Again, great time for those of you who are thinking about writing a book, thinking about working on a project.